nearly 7 years of genocidal warfare by the US-led Saudi coalition against the Yemeni people, Yemen's Houthi rebels have turned the tide in the conflict, and they've made it so that Saudi Arabia's defeat is imminent. All that the Saudi coalition can do now is offer fraudulent peace deals to try to cut their losses. All that they can do now is tactfully move towards a retreat of some sort. These defense contractors and these imperialists, these Saudi war criminals, all that they can do now is transition towards a scenario where they have to effectively surrender to these rebels. This is comparable to the defeat that Washington suffered at the hands of the Vietnamese communist resistors around half a century ago, except Yemen is arguably more strategically important to the Washington-Israeli-Saudi alliance in that part of the world in Southwest Asia than Vietnam was strategically important for Washington in Southeast Asia 50 years ago. So we're seeing another step in the decline of U.S. geopolitical influence and another step towards the ultimate defeat of U.S. imperialism, because this is part of a trend within this last year of, or at least especially within this last year, of the indigenous populations that Washington has tried to subjugate and colonize abroad, fighting back and winning. Just a few months ago, Bolivia's indigenous proletarian movement very effectively beat back the U.S.-installed coup regime that ruled genocidally over Bolivia's indigenous population from 2019 to late 2020. Bolivia's proletarian movement beat back this regime in a comparable way to how the Houthis have beaten back the Saudis, another one of Washington's genocidal proxy regimes. They did it through perseverance, through not submitting to the massive violence that Washington and Washington's proxies have rained down upon the victims of global empire, which again is comparable to how the Vietnamese communist resistors defeated Washington. All of these populations, all of these oppressed nationalities have won through morale, through perseverance, through not giving up. And I think we should study the tactics of these liberation movements, especially I think the Viet Minh, with their very effective model of organizing regiments, of organizing in a fashion that encourages good morale, and such as, for instance, the type of military unit where there were always 3 fighters who could therefore form close relationships and gain a sense of camaraderie that could see them through this harsh fight. These are the kinds of tactics we need to take a page from. These are the kinds of tactics we need to study in order to prepare ourselves for the great battle that's coming to the national and class liberation movement within the core of global imperialism. Because the more that these kinds of national liberation movements abroad gain victories over the empire, the more the empire is going to be forced to turn inwards to enact more austerity and privatization and wage cuts that drive the living standards of the imperial core's residents further down, and therefore make the potential for revolution even more likely within the imperial core. All in all, this is good news. This news of the tide turning in Yemen, and I'm very excited to see the ultimate product, which will be revolution within the core of the empire.